Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Acsom Bulletin. Delighted, as always, on a Tuesday, after a Celtic victory at the weekend, to be joined by Lawrence Conley at the bottom there, sporting a rather nice, is that a tank top or something you've got on, Lawrence? I like the pattern in it, mate.
It's just a polo shirt.
Just a polo. I like the pattern in it. You couldn't tell what team you support at all with it. And Patrick over there to what would be my right-hand side looking at the screen. Gentlemen, how are you on this rather kind of bleak Tuesday? We've had the nice weather. It seems to have passed now. Patrick, still sunny in Uddingston, or is it much the same as here?
No, the sunshine went away on Sunday night with the thunder and lightning. Absolutely chucking it down yesterday. And it's okay today. It's bright enough, but I can't see that lasting.
Lawrence, with the shorts on at the weekend?
Mate, just when Patrick's saying thunder and lightning, I know it was Friday, mate. It's Celtic's attack. 2 overhead kicks, goal scoring, centre half. Jeez, what a weekend, eh?
What a weekend, eh? Yep, thunder and lightning at 12 o'clock at Rugby Park, and then later on at night. Just to quickly ask you, Lawrence, here, Alan's asking in the comments, what time is the tee off? So you're already get a pasting for that polo shirt number. Oh, I think it's quite nice. I think it's rather trendy. Don't know if I'd pull it off myself, Patrick, but hey ho. So let's go right back to Sunday afternoon, Rugby Park. Patrick, I think first of all, we knew the conditions were going to be poor. The manager touched on it was going to be a dry surface. We already know that AstroTurf at the best of times difficult, never mind when it's not been watered. It was absolutely boiling hot. I think anybody who was in that Chadwick stand along with Marcelo will tell you it was roasting. And, the referee didn't give us too much in favour, but we just blew Kilmarnock out the water, and really 5-0 I think was a fair reflection of the game. It could have probably been a lot more.
Yeah, we didn't really need any sort of, not favours from the referee, but obviously the usual incompetence, and it didn't really affect us because we were so good. I mean, the first goal's incredible. Taylor's pass up to Maeda, and Maeda he's a lot more inside than what he would have been. I think under, Vultures and Lennon, our wingers would hug the touchline, whereas Maeda's getting into that space between the full-back and the centre half, and then he's just playing a straightforward ball to Kyogo, who slots it in the net. And, McInnes might say that the keeper should be making a better save, or, his players should do better, but the truth is, Celtic were on fire at the weekend, and he never likes giving us any credit. I don't think he's ever given us credit. We've beaten him about 20 times in his career, and he's never given us credit once. But no, I think Celtic were phenomenal. And another goal of the season contender from Jota.
Yeah, but we'll get to that Jota goal. Just like Kyogo arriving through the middle of the defenders, Natasha arrives on your screen. Patrick there doing his dives in Maeda and teeing the ball up. Natasha, you don't have any funky polo shirts on like Lawrence here. He's already had a bit of a pasting. How are you on this Tuesday, and how was the weather through on the other side of Scotland?
I am good, and I think I want to stick up for Lawrence here as I come in slightly late. I think that's a great polo you've got on, Lawrence, so don't pay attention to any of the comments. That's fantastic.
Natasha, I liked it that much, I bought it.
I only feel underdressed now that I've come here in a black t-shirt when you guys are all looking very green and splendid. Just as splendid as the day was at the weekend, wasn't it? A beautiful day at Rugby Park, if not too hot, actually. I don't know where you were sitting, Deck, but certainly down in the front few rows, very much.
We were up in the shade. We went for the shaded area.
I wouldn't mind a sub with you at half time, actually, because it was nice for the first 5 minutes. It then became far too hot. So I do have sympathies for the players out on the pitch because it was a hot one, but very enjoyable nonetheless.
Yeah, it was a hot one. We had
hot enough to drink out of toilets?
Not at all. Not at all. We actually had Stephen Welsh up beside us for the first half, who was taking in the game. It was quite nice to see him and amongst the Celtic support, because I couldn't help but notice we were in fashion sense. Big Ange had taken the suit jacket. There was no jumper on, just the shirt on. And if you looked over towards, you actually see it in your video at the end, Natasha. You get the Celtic directors, and they're all splendid and just their white shirts, as if it was a kind of a trend going on there with them. But Patrick, you were talking about Derek McInnes not giving us any praise. Lawrence, I'm going to switch this one over to you. I thought Derek McInnes looked a bit like a PE teacher at the weekend with the shorts and the t-shirt on.
Yeah, let's say I know Patrick's saying he doesn't give us much credit, but he's got to look to sort his own problems, hasn't he? And I don't think Kilmarnock obviously couldn't live with us. It's Yeah, he's got a lot of problems to sort out there. I think that I don't think it really mattered who would have been playing in the league. We'd have won out worthy winners against any other team in Scotland the way we were performing that day.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll leave kind of Derek McInnes's defensive frailties and moaning about players not being switched on and, you know, conceding what he described as poor goals to one side. Natasha, we'll come to you in this one. First of all, you know, Greg Taylor get man of the match at the end of the game. I've also the post-match interview. We heard the nice things that Jota had to say about his fellow teammate, but you know, it says everything about the way that we play football, the way that the system is, that there's Taylor in the middle of the park to play that splitting ball to Maeda, which is something that's becoming really repetitive in Ange's parts of play. The ball goes out to the winger. He completely splits the defence open, and Kewell just arrives right between the two centre halves and slots it past Big Walker to put his 1-0 up.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? What a ball that was. A really good pass. It's the sort of football we enjoy watching, and it's the sort of football we're seeing more and more of from Celtic. But in terms of Greg Taylor, you know, it's great for us as a team and as a set of fans that he's playing as well as he is. But above that, I'm just really happy for Greg. You know, it's been no secret that he was very much lambasted as a bit of, you know, a weak link last season by a large section of the support. And I don't know, I probably myself had pointed to him as a slight weak link last season, saying that he was probably the area we needed to improve on the most. Left back was perhaps a bit of a weak spot. And all credit to Greg, you know, it's not like he won't read all these comments, you know, but he's just continued to get better and better every single game. And then we started last season talking about how he always turned up in big games, particularly, you know, the Rangers games and some of the European games, things like that. He was playing really well. And he's just really continued that top form into this season. I don't think it would have been unfair to say that he's been player of the match in every game we've played so far this season. I think he has been that good. So I'm just really pleased that his performances are at that level. You know, we're talking about a guy who had to turn off his social media comments last season because he was getting such a hard time. And now this season he's getting inundated with messages to turn them back on so we can all tell him how much we love him. So there's a real, you know, 180 from Greg. And it reminds me a little bit of what Ralston did. You know, when he started coming into the team at the start of last season, again, he was pointed as, you know, not being the quality we were looking for, not quite up to the standard we were looking for, an area we needed to improve in. Juranović comes in, and again, all credit to Tony. He just got on with his job and gave 110% in every game, and that's what Greg's done so far at the start of this season. And it's going to be very difficult to take that shirt off him because I think he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been absolutely excellent. A real, you know, breath of fresh air. I was listening also, you know, James McFadden was talking about Jota after the game. I know we're only 3 games into this season, but he was saying even now that he thinks he's improved. We're only 3 games into a brand new season just because he's got his future sorted out. He's committed himself to Celtic. Obviously, Greg Taylor did that a long time ago, but you're seeing improvement in our players very early on in the season, and that's a real good sign going forward. Patrick, you know, while we're talking about Diza Maeda, there 2 assists for him at the weekend. I saw, you know, on the way down in the car to Rugby Park, there was, you know, as usual, parts of Twitter, there can be things that divided, and I was quite taken aback that people were questioning Ange playing Diza Maeda from the start. Personally, I think he's very important to the system that we want to play as a team. He was a real integral part of the team that went on to win the league last season, and, you know, we're not going to chop and change people for what Ange, I think, described as, you know, kind of flow moments in the game, as in Abada's goal at Ross County. It wasn't enough for Ange to say, okay, I'm going to drop Maeda and bring in Abada. I think Maeda, once again at the weekend, just showed how important he is to the system, and anybody probably questioned that at the start of the game were in their own words after the first half had probably ended.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there was a few people questioning Kewell starting as well for Giakoumakis. I think, you know, I said on here last week I'd go for a bit of physicality with Giakoumakis and Ralston, but I still think Kewell's a better player and a better striker, so I can totally understand why Ange went with him. Maeda, I can't understand it personally. I mean, I like Abada. I think we all like Abada. I think it's really exciting to see where his career goes because he's so good at such a young age.
Very good when he came on too as a substitute at the weekend again.
I think, did he get an assist or did it come off another player towards the end, the Giakoumakis goal?
I think possibly it came off a Kelly player, so I think it just went down as a Jacko goalie cell. I think I need to have a wee quick look here.
But I think, you know, you can't complain at, you know, Abada playing, but Maeda's been such an important player for us since what would you say, March or April last season. The past 5-6 months he's been phenomenal, and showed that again at the weekend. The assists that he's contributing with, the way he plays in Ange's system, getting in between the fullback and the centre half, playing these balls, the pace on him, the pressuring. Kelly can't handle our pressure. When you've got guys like Jota, Kewell, and Maeda running at you when you're trying to play out from the back, or when you're just trying to sort of get a foothold in the game. So no, I think whoever you go with, I think will be absolutely fine 99 times out of 100. But I wouldn't go as far to say I'm disappointed to see Maeda playing, or I'm disappointed to see a bad on the bench. We've got several good options, and I don't think there's a bad option out of those 8 players.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a couple of comments coming in here just where we're talking about Diaz and Maeda, to say that both Kyogo and Maeda, this is Stevie Boy here, saying that they made the rest of the game comfortable after 7 minutes. That's why they start, and the manager's trusting them shows. Obviously, Ange Postecoglou knows all about Diaz and Maeda. He obviously had him over there in Japan, and he'd looked at Kyogo as one of the players when he arrived at Celtic that he knew could to make that transition from Japan to Scotland to be an impact right away. Lawrence, that was the first goal, top goal. Anthony's came in the comments to say everyone is playing with confidence. It's great to see playing the Celtic way. A man who is playing with confidence, in abundance, is Jota. At first he has that one in the halfway line, and he just kind of try to scoop it. It's ended up coming back to him. Maeda passes the ball to him. He takes a touch. I don't know if it's actually maybe the pitch that helps him there, that he's maybe taking too much of a touch, and he's thinking to himself, I need to scalp this. But my God, does he scalp it?
Yeah, it's what finish. He's just getting better week in week, isn't he? And maybe part of that's having his future settled. He's now here, permanently. It's not just on loan. He's not wondering, am I going to stay at Celtic or back to Benfica? So 100% committed to us. Obviously, I think he had more holidays than Natasha during close season, and they seem to have be bumping into even more Celtic fans than Natasha does. So he's definitely bought into the club. And what a goal. It's just week in week. You wonder what he's going to come out with. Yeah. Some people don't think he's the best player in Scotland. I think Greg and Callum's probably going to win him close. But, outside of those 3, I'm not too sure who else they'd be talking about.
Natasha, one of the things I think a lot of Celtic fans picked up on was wee cuddle and his wee word in ear from Harry Kewell at the end of the game. And Alan Roberts is asking in the comments, do you think that possibly maybe this kind of maybe new part to Jota's game, we're seeing him, have confidence to take these shots on, is working with Harry Kewell probably day in, day out at Lennoxtown?
Yeah, I think Harry Kewell's going to be an excellent addition to the backroom staff. It's one thing I recently in a press conference when we had the chance to talk to Callum McGregor, it's one of the things that I asked him about was the impact of Harry Kewell and what differences he'd made, sort of behind the scenes to the training regime, because that's something we don't usually get too much of an insight to. We know he's there, but it's just interesting to know the sort of difference that he's making. And one thing that Callum did point to was that he really worked well with the attacking players, and he was bringing a new dimension to what he was teaching them and the experience he was bringing to them and what he was managing to pass on. So it's absolutely no doubt or no surprise to me that Kewell is having a brilliant impact on the forward attacking players, and I think we can see it. I think we can see it on the pitch. Previously, I believe that that was the sort of role that Damien Duff filled, and by all accounts, he was an excellent coach, particularly for the attacking players. And since he left, I'm not really sure we have had anyone in who really, sort of took up that mantle and filled that position. So it's obviously something that Ange spotted over the course of last season, and brought in Harry to do that job. And yeah, he's working wonders. Obviously, his ability as a coach has been great, but the sort of experience he brings as well, and given Ange someone that he wanted in. So that seems like a great appointment to me so far, and you can see on the pitch and their performances what it's doing in terms of the attacking football.
Yeah, I think it typified the heat as well at Kelly, that he was one of the only ones that was we skip pat on, even though he comes from the land down under where temperatures are probably a wee bit hotter than what it was in East Ayrshire on Sunday. I think he was even struggling with it with the sun. But yeah, a good addition to the backroom staff, and one that I think you'll see, further improve players like Jota, probably Abada, and etc. That they've got somebody there who's played their game, played their part of the pitch, and even though we don't have regimented slots of defensive coach, attacking coach. It certainly will be, probably helping develop and work with those players. So, yep, an exciting one to see how that one develops. But if Jota keeps coming up with these worldies each and every game, you're in for a special season with him. And it's ever looking likely, Patrick, that we've absolutely robbed Benfica for him because 6 million so far looks like an absolute bargain.
It does. I don't think they're short of a few pennies with that Darwin Núñez money, but at the same time, Jota's a homegrown talent. He sort of came through with João Felix, isn't it, that went to Atletico Madrid? I think they were pals. And he's a Benfica fan. He paid tribute to one of their all-time great goal scorers with his the wristband after he scored. So, it was probably quite sad for him, quite sad for them, but we've got ourselves a bargain. I think it's, if we can keep holding him for a few years and qualify for the Champions League for a few seasons, and he can have a good couple of games in there, I can see him breaking our record transfer fee for Tierney, because I think he's an absolutely phenomenal player. Just needs to stay injury free and needs to keep playing his own game, really, because he's absolutely he's effective going forward and he's exciting to watch. So there's not many players like that. There's guys that can score 20-25 goals a season and they're not that exciting to watch, but this guy gets bums off seats, as people say, and what a player. I would agree that he probably is the best player in Scotland at the minute on form.
Yeah, a man I think more of Lawrence's generation than ours, Fernando Chalana, who David Slight was telling me he actually saw play for Benfica at Anfield when he was a player there. So yeah, really nice touch that from Jota. I know there's been some Celtic fans being a bit naughty by changing what was on the wristband, but he put his hand up, but a very nice touch from Jota on that one. Lawrence, obviously our tagline is about vultures circling. We've had updates on, O'Reilly, Juranović, Giakoumakis. Probably will be more. We will come to it. But one man I think I wanted to touch on who's came in. He's not a permanent player for Celtic just now. He's only on loan, but it's 2 goals in 2 games for Big Moritz James. And he's already been saying, in his press comments that he wants to be at Celtic, and be here for a permanent basis. If he keeps up, this form, I'm sure Ange Postecoglou will probably have no doubt in bringing him in and making him a permanent deal.
Yeah, I think maybe we'd have went perm if we had a bit more money. I think just now we're in the kind of loan with option to buy market, unless we move Julian or a Yeti on. But he's just been amazing. It's kind of a Raymond Vega-esque start to his career, isn't it? A goal scoring centre half. We've now scored 3 games in a row. We've scored from corners. Another attribute. Big Julian, as good a player as he was when he was fit, his goal every 6 games or thereabout. It's definitely something we've lacked since he's been out of the team. So he looks more comfortable on the left-hand side of the defence than either Starfelt or Welsh have looked when they've played there. So I think it gives a better balance. Yeah. Hopefully he keeps it up and we sign him. As for the other players being looked at, when we're playing this well, there's always going to be people looking at our players, and I think just now it just comes down to the players whether they're happy or not. Ange has said that, he wants people who want to be at the club. It looks as if Ange is creating something special. Time will tell how we do in the Champions League group, how special it is. And if they're doing well there, why would they want to rush out and leave?
Yeah, that's it. He's meeting a place that I think players are happy and want to play their football at. We've obviously got that Champions League football to offer. But we were on the subject, Natasha, of centre halves. The conundrums just get even worse for Ange Postecoglou because we go on Carl Starfelt eventually. I think it was his 50th game or something for Celtic. Got his first goal. Didn't give up with it. I think it's actually quite a decent save from the keeper from the Vickers header. That's probably heading in. If he doesn't get his hand to it, 1 bite at it, 2 bites at it, eventually gets him into the net. You see his reaction. And I thought what was really nice was Ange Postecoglou's reaction with the arms up in the air as if, it was a moment that I think, it had been the kind of, it summed up everything that Carl Starfelt had did for Celtic, and it had been a moment that he'd working towards and been really trying to get to. And it was just really nice to see how much he enjoyed that moment in the game.
It was, and it was by no means the best goal of the game, given what we've had to choose from. It was, a goal to go 4-0 up in a tie that was very comfortable. But for me, I think it could have been my favourite of the five for a few reasons. One, for Karel Starfelt finally getting his first goal for Celtic after his massive contribution over the course of the last season. And another reason was just the reaction of everyone around him. The reaction of the players on the pitch, the reaction of the players who were warming up, the reaction of Postecoglou on the bench. I think all that just really showed a real togetherness of the team, how happy they all are, how much they all seem to be enjoying their football, how much they seem to be enjoying what we're building here, what we're doing here, and how together they are as a squad, how much they like each other, which is important too. It wasn't just the reaction on the pitch, but then, their sort of reaction afterwards on social media and their congratulations for Starfelt and things like that is just really nice and really encouraging to see. And I think that feeds on to the point that we've just been talking about, all about, people circling for these players and wanting to perhaps take them away. When they're happy and enjoying their football and enjoying their life at Celtic, that makes it a much more difficult task for anyone to try and remove them from that. And all the signs that we're seeing from the vast majority of the squad is that they are loving their time at Celtic. They look happy on the pitch, which is fantastic. And like Lawrence mentioned, Ange is building something special here. And we're only 3 games into the season, and all the signs are there that it's just going to keep getting better. And I don't know what advice you would have to give someone that would be, this is a good time to leave this club on the brink of what we're on, in terms of Champions League football, in terms of another really good campaign, in terms of a squad that are absolutely firing on all cylinders 3 games into a season, playing as well as we are. I mean, there's just so much positivity on the horizon. I can't see that now would be the optimal time for anyone to choose to leave the football club, but particularly, like I touched on, when they seem so happy here. Obviously, money talks. There's always commercial decisions to be made for the club, for the players, for agents. But I don't think, looking at the 3 names you've sort of highlighted there, O'Reilly, for one, we know his backstory. We knew that he would rather go and sort of train in a public park than take a move for money. He wants to take a move for his football and his career. He seems to be absolutely loving life at Celtic. He'll be very pleased that Jens, his best friend, is here now, so that keeps him happy. Juranović, another one who seems very settled, always talked about as one of the, the more loud, vocal, confident, funny players in the dressing room. That's not sort of signs of players who want to leave. He's on the brink of a World Cup. You don't go to another club a few months out from that and unsettle your footballing status. So, I don't see these guys going anywhere this window anyway. And like you guys have already touched on earlier, when things are going well and when players are playing well and the club are doing well, of course there's going to be interest. It's a compliment, but I'm confident that we're not going to lose any of the key players of this team.
Yeah, but I think you've got, Patrick, just a lot of the things that Natasha says there, I completely agree with. If you think back to, I think it was after, the Sparta Prague game, this was nearly 2 years ago now, when we got demolished 4-1, and that was Neil Lennon himself came out and he mentioned the word culture at the club, but we've had a complete turnaround in that culture at the club 2 years on nearly, where there's a culture, there's a good feel factor around the place. You have people that believe in the manager. Everyone appears to be working in the right direction. That even goes from boardroom to manager. You see that with the business that get done in January. Things just now at Celtic are good. Everything's working in the right direction. For any of these players, I think it would be bad from their perspective to want to get out. And I don't think any of them actually do want to get out. I think Giakoumakis, for instance, is really, really happy just now at Celtic. And we all touch on, what Fabrizio Romano said it later on. But, I think there's a reason why, as Natasha said, we're playing well. Those players particularly are playing well at the top of their game, and there's going to be interest. But at this point in time, Celtic don't need to sell. It'd be daft for Celtic to sell, and I think it'd be daft for any of those players to want to leave, and none of them do want to leave the football club.
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult with Premier League teams because, the money, it's like 5x, 10x what we can offer. But, Natasha makes a great point. Why would Juranović want to be third choice at Chelsea when he's got a World Cup to go to in like 2
and
or 3
why would
months?
anybody want to go to Manchester United as well?
I was just coming on to that. Giakoumakis, I don't think we're in a position to sell actually. Because, after Giakoumakis, you're probably looking at a Yeti for third choice striker, unless I'm somehow forgetting somebody. But no, so I don't think we're in a position to sell him. Obviously, if the money's right, if someone comes in with 25 million, I think he's away. But I think, you know, as you've both touched on, there's no cliques in this team. You know, Matt O'Reilly said that. I think it was the end of last season. You touched on just after Sparta Prague. I think Lennon and the club were looking at bringing in some sort of common room so that the players can all get to know each other and start socialising with each other. And you think, how daft is that? How can the players not know each other when this squad is so close as what they are? And, you know, I think it's a great position to be in, to have a squad that's so good, a manager that's so good, and then the togetherness as well, you know. And Natasha's right, you know, the happiness that you could see from the entire squad when Starfelt scored that goal, you know, because he's, apart from Hart, I think he's the only one from last season that hasn't scored yet. So, it was brilliant. And, you know, I seen a comment earlier that we've not really been tested yet. You know, I think Aberdeen, you know, we could have got a few more goals, but, you know, we've got Hearts, Dundee United, Ross County, and then the Derby. So we're going to be tested soon. We're going to be tested in the coming weeks. You know, Hearts are no mugs. I think they're probably going to finish third again. So as good as we are, we need to keep it up because, you know, the tests are coming.
Yeah, and, you know, Hearts are going to have something that they're not familiar with that this week, playing Thursday, Sunday, something, you know, Celtic are well used to playing European football, but before a league game, and it'll be interesting to see actually how Robbie Nielsen approaches that. We'll come to that Hearts game later, but obviously they play the Swiss champions this week, which I think says a lot about FC Zurich. If you think of some of the other, you know, clubs in there that we're probably used to seeing in European football, Basel being one of them, obviously, and it'll be interesting to see how he approaches that game, because going Thursday, Sunday, and then Thursday again is going to be difficult for them. Hearts, obviously, unlike the two top teams in the league, don't have as big a squad, anywhere near as big a squad as Celtic and our nearest challengers. So, you know, it's going to be probably, I would imagine that Robbie Nielsen won't come to Celtic playing too strong a side. But yeah, they've come off to a flyer. Good victory for them at the weekend over Dundee United, but we'll see how that goes, and we'll touch on that game later on. But as you say, Patrick, you know, I think even in the grand scheme of things, we're getting a lot of tricky ties coming at the bay. You know, we've been caught an Aberdeen team who were coming in after a very good League Cup group stage campaign. Yes, against lower level sides, but, you know, Jim Goodwin had been in there. He brought in a lot of new signings. They looked as if they were going into it with a real good fuel factor. You went up to Dingwall, which we all know is always a difficult venue, pegged back at one each when you're into, you know, the last 10 minutes of the game. We found a way, and I felt the conditions on Sunday, particularly Natasha, you'll know this, you know, being there like every other Celtic fan too, that made the trip down, they weren't easy. You know, I think even from a spectators' point of view, never mind the football players' point of view, by how sticky the surface was, had it been watered, and everything else that goes between that. So I think we have had decent tests up until now, but Patrick, I think as you probably say, Hearts will be another challenging test. We need to go up to Tannadice. I know, you know, 7-0 thumping in Europe, and, you know, not a great result of the weekend, but again, it's always a tough venue, and I think that week is going to be really interesting. We go Tannadice, Dingwall, then we've got the Derby game. I think probably after then, a lot of people will have a really good barometer of where the squad's at, and I expect us to probably come through that unscathed and looking good. So we'll look forward to those games, but it's one game at a time, which I'm sure Ange Postecoglou's focus is bang on to. Lawrence, seeing that grand scheme of things, talking about, you know, the amount of games that we're going to play, the tests that are going to come up, I think something that's benefiting us latterly in games just now is the 5 substitutes. Now, on Sunday we brought on Starfelt, Abada, Aaron Mooy, Georges Giakoumakis, and James Forrest. For other clubs in the league, probably an unfair advantage to, you know, as I say, the teams with the bigger squads. But I think this is something that's really benefiting Celtic at this point in time.
Yeah, you know, we've got quality and depth, so they're not going to have the same quality in the first 11, and that follows they're not going to have the same quality on the bench. The style we play, you know, never mind just standing in that heat was pretty tiring. It's got to knock our teams out. So when the likes of Abada comes on, you know, if you're a defender, you've got to face somebody with his pace. It's going to be scary for you. But listen, these are the rules. It's 5 subs. Ange seems to make the best use of them. He knows how to do it well. Obviously, Starfelt come on. Hopefully, Jens isn't out injured. Hopefully, he's going to be okay. But
all right.
Yeah, we're making good use of subs, you know, and I think that's part of the style Ange's play, isn't it? You know, you're expecting 5 out of the front 6 to be changed, 4 or 5 out of them to be changed. It was interesting to see Mooy come on and push Callum further forward. I always like to see Callum play a wee bit further forward. So, yeah, you know, it's the rules. Everyone plays with, well, I was going to say everyone in football plays within the rules, but maybe that's too general a statement. But yeah, you know, you've got to use it to your advantage. You know, we're playing within the rules, and I don't think there can be too many complaints about that.
Yeah, if Alan Piver's watching, good afternoon to him. Natasha, but on that, you know, the 5 subs and one player who I was actually quite impressed with, that I noticed Colin was talking about yesterday, was Aaron Mooy, and that's something that's came in here. I think with game time and his legs at this point in time, he's starting to just get up to speed a wee bit. And I think, again, you know, there was questions around his side, certainly not from my part. I really enjoyed his press conference that Fan Media did with him, and I thought, you know, it was a good player to get in, and probably, I think, as I said a couple of weeks ago, had the situation with COVID and whatnot in China not being the case, Celtic would be looking at paying 5 or 6 million for him. You know, I think at this point in time, with game time, Aaron Mooy probably over the course for Celtic is going to be an important player. And how did you think he did when he came on Sunday?
Good, yeah, I'm with you. I thought he was, you know, a good signing from the start. I think he's a sort of player that we didn't really have, which makes him a good addition to the squad. And above all, Ange thought he was going to be a good addition to the squad, so I'm happy with that. And I think he looked really good. I think, again, he's getting better. A lot of people were very quick to judge him on a 15-minute performance, you know, at home to Aberdeen at the start of the season. But he needed time. He hadn't played a lot of football. He needed to get up to speed. And it had, you know, he's only had, you know, cameo appearance here and there, and already for me, he's shown, like, you know, he's coming on leaps and bounds. I thought he was very assured when he came on at the weekend. I thought he did a really good job of just sort of shoring up that role, that centre of the park, and giving the players round about him a little bit more freedom. His passing was spot on, as the comments that are coming up are saying. He didn't misplace a pass. You know, he was very reliable, got about his job very securely, and I think, again, like Lawrence touched on, it gives Callum McGregor a bit more freedom, which is a good thing. So I think he's going to be an important player for us, particularly when you've mentioned there, you know, the use of the 5 substitutes. If we need someone to come on and just sort of, you know, see a game out, shore up the midfield, give some of the other players a bit of a breather, then he's going to be absolutely perfect for that. And depending on the sort of game it is, then maybe he's a starter and, you know, a bit further down the road. So yeah, equally very impressed with Mooy. I think he'll be a very handy player to have. And yeah, our bench is just so strong, isn't it? You know, you feel for other teams when they look at the starting 11 they have to play, and then they look at the bench, you know, and you've spent the full game going up against Jota or Maeda, and it gets to the 70th minute and you're exhausted chasing their shadows, and what we do is turn around and bring on the Alabada. I mean, that must be demoralising for any fullback. So yeah, I think that the rule does benefit us, there's absolutely no doubt. But, you know, it can go one of two ways. You know, I think I've seen it used, some teams, even us in the past previously, where having so many substitutes can sort of disrupt the style of play a little bit.
Kill a game of it.
Yeah, when you're trying to do a bit too much, change too much, it just doesn't quite click again, and you have that sort of, you know, transition period where it's not quite working and the new players coming on are sort of still trying to gel into the game, into the team. So it can happen, you know, against us as well. But I think the more what we see now is that we don't have this sort of starting 11 and then a massive drop-off where, you know, bringing any of these players on who aren't at the standard of the 11 that are on the pitch is naturally going to have a slightly disruptive effect to the football that's being played. The difference for us is that the majority, if not all of the players on our bench, are at that level. So they're, you know, coming in absolutely seamlessly to what we're doing, and it isn't disrupting the play at all. So now that we've managed to get that sort of clicking, I mean, yeah, it's fantastic. And it's something that Ange said at the press conference that we were at earlier in the year, when we were talking about things like Kewell or Giakoumakis or both. You know, his view was that he didn't have, you know, a best 11 or, you know, a best anything. He had a squad of, you know, 22, 24 players, however many he sees, and he uses them as required throughout the game and throughout the season. And what he's able to do is rely on all of them to do what they need to and do their job to the level that he expects when they come on. And yeah, it's just a really strong position to be in, and really speaks to the strength and depth that we have that other clubs don't.
Yeah, and, you know, again, we're missing Rio Hitati at the weekend.
Mhm.
Obviously, Yusuke Higuchi we've not seen probably as much as we'd like to see of him. Hopefully when he comes back, he eventually gets that bit of run in the team. But, that wasn't even the bench at probably full complement on Sunday, and you see the strength and depth. So, yeah, there's a lot there in that, but, it's just how you manage that, which I think, as you say, Natasha, Ange has already been quite spot on about, our tagline says, about that, Ange keep the players happy, which he said, after the Aberdeen game, it's not his job to do that. They're at Celtic Football Club. If they're not already happy with that, then he doesn't know what happiness is. So he's pretty clear on that. Players, I think, know within that dressing room, Patrick, chances will come. One man who is definitely probably in that position just now is Giakoumakis. He comes on at the weekend, scores an absolute cracker. Again, probably saying to Moritz Jenz, anything you can do, I can do just as well as you, probably. It's another great overhead kick. We know he quite likes these. And I watched his interview with Ryan Maher last week on the Celtic View podcast, and everything just now for Giakoumakis seems to be going nice. Again, probably the side to him that we've not seen in football. His wife, obviously, he's just had a new wee baby. Is still over in Greece just now, so he's been himself. He says that he needs them with him. They give him everything in life. He's looking forward to them joining him back here. So, for him, I think a new family, very young, baby just coming over to Scotland. He won't want to be disruptive. And just to read out this Fabrizio Romano tweet, he said this morning at 20 to 5 for any of the early risers, there were clubs interested in Georgios Giakoumakis as he's doing great with Celtic. Also approached by Premier League clubs in the last few days. I think what's important to note in here is we're not actually getting any clubs named, much like the Juranović stuff that we got. Celtic have absolutely no intention to sell him. This is a really important point in it. Untouchable. I think Georgios Giakoumakis is most certainly, at this point in time, Patrick, untouchable.
Yeah, I think him and Kewell were both untouchable. Two fantastic players, two guys great at leading the line. Very different players, very different strikers, but both, they're always putting up the goals. That you would never say that they're playing badly. They do their jobs well, and their jobs are very different when they're both playing. It's interesting there just how much family means to him. He's obviously, not every player adapts to a country when they move to a different team. Not every player can settle as quickly. Obviously it took him a while to come into the team, but obviously his family means quite a lot to him, and it's a difficult period for any player. What is he, 26 or 27, having a newborn baby? So it's a big time in his life, on and off the pitch. So it's nice to know that he's untouchable. It's nice to know that we're almost certainly not going to sell him. I don't know why we would sell him. I think we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot a wee bit. We've not left ourselves any time to replace him. And yeah, I think you can put that down to paper talk, much like the Juranović stuff. There's no numbers involved. There's barely any teams involved. Celtic haven't received any bids. Juranović was a bit stronger because there was, two clubs named, but I don't know. I think, unrelated to Celtic, I think Fabrizio Romano, he's changed tack a wee bit this summer. He's sort of tweeting anything and everything, whereas he was only tweeting confirmed stuff in the past. So, it's how much can you read into that? I don't know, but it's good to know that he's untouchable, and we all know his ability. So delighted to have him around.
Yeah, and Lawrence, on that point of him being untouchable, Giakoumakis, probably much like Kyogo as well. I don't think Kyogo will think, every week I'm going to start here for Celtic, but they both know that chances are going to be given to them, which I think says a lot about the Celtic squad at this point in time. And it's why I don't think any of our big hitters are going to depart this summer unless you're talking complete silly money, which even then, if it's late on, I don't think Ange Postecoglou would be entertaining.
Listen, a lot will come down to the players, but the scouting department seems to be doing a cracking job, Tosh and company. So I'm sure that that they've not stopped working. They'll still be scouting players for every position at the moment. So if someone was to come in and offer you 30 million for your Giakoumakis, I think Celtic would bite their hand off. But for the position, we don't need to sell, and a lot of it would come down to the player. But both him and Kyogo both know they're going to get minutes every week if both are fit. They know there's going to be a change at some point, and geez, you know, if you're a centre half and Kyogo's been giving you the run around and hard to pick up, the last thing you need is Giakoumakis going on when you're knackered to, it's just going to bully you. It is, you know, Ange is building a squad, because it is a squad game now, especially with the 5 subs, and it's working well for us. We're not wishing anyone away, but, you know, we're not desperate for money. If they're going to try and take a player, it's going to cost them proper money. A bit like we got from Frimpong, who may be giving us another wee bonus soon, apparently. You know, if he gets his Barcelona move. So, yeah, we've got a decent squad just now. If somebody comes in with silly money, you know, we need to consider it. And you'd be speaking to your scouting team and saying, right, who have you got lined up? If we take this, who is it that would come in?
Natasha, that's probably one of the most positive things that we've actually had under Ange, in that I go back to January with all the chat round Riley McGree. It looked as if this move's going to go through, you know, Aussie player, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't happen right away. Matt O'Reilly appears. Again, I don't think there's any kind of coincidence that the man standing to O'Reilly's right is part of, you know, base management sports. We know about Ange Postecoglou's relationship with Frank Trimbley and all the stuff he's did in the background at Celtic at this point in time. You probably do have confidence that if any of the big hitters were to go, you'd replace him, but I just can't see that happening this summer.
Yeah, I think the one thing that has really changed this season compared to previous seasons, well, a lot of things have changed, but one of the key things is that the recruitment has been absolutely spot on. You know, you look at all of our previous seasons, the previous windows, you look who we've brought in, half of them at least have failed. And you look back and think that wasn't a great signing, or that didn't work out for whatever reason. You look at everyone that's been brought in under Postecoglou's tenure and then you think, you know, they've all been absolutely fantastic. So he or his team or whoever he's working with can spot a player, which is a really good thing to have, because like Lawrence has mentioned, no player is completely unsellable for a club like Celtic. We're in the good position we don't have to. But, you know, commercially, you get a ridiculously high offer for someone, you're going to think about it, and eventually you're going to take it. So what we need to have is trust in the process that we can then replace that person. And probably more so than I ever remember, I have trust in the setup, from, you know, the scouting department to the management department, even to the board who have been funding these transfers. I've got faith that they will be replaced. Whereas previously, when we lost some of our key players, you know, you're even looking back to, you know, players like Kieran Tierney, there was a real fear that we weren't going to replace them. And a lot of the time we didn't. So, you know, that was the concern back then. Now that concern is somewhat alleviated by the people we've got in at the helm, and it's a good position to be in. Obviously, don't want to lose anyone. You know, like Ange just mentioned before, we're building this nice house. The house is still under construction. You don't start ripping up the deck as you're building the house. So yeah, I want to keep them all together. But when the time comes that some of them have to eventually move on, because that's the nature of football, the nature of the club, then yeah, I've got confidence that we'll replace well.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. The point that Lawrence mentioned there, Patrick, I think could possibly feed into, you know, deals maybe late on in the window. Just to kind of give you a wee quote here from Ange Postecoglou. He'd said that in terms of incomings, we are still active. There's one or two areas that I would like to bring in, but it has to be the right sort of players. We are definitely still active and looking at what options may be available in general. I think this transfer window is going to be pretty hectic in the last couple of weeks. I suggest there could be some opportunities there for us, and in terms of outgoings, there are players who aren't getting a lot of opportunities. What do you make of that?
I expect a few to go and a few to come in. You know, I think he said one or two incomings, so, you know, hopefully one or two players. Probably not going to be first team players this late on, but I think we could maybe do with another attacking midfielder. That's maybe a place I'd like us to strengthen. You know, I think obviously we'll come on and talk about it. We might be needing another left back. And then in terms of outgoings, you know, you've got the obvious ones. You've got Julian and Ayeti. You know, Soro and Barkas went out on loan. And I think I'm right in saying that's most of the deadwood away because we sold Bolingoli. So I think, you know, hopefully if we can get those two off the books. You know, Ayeti's never really done it. I was a big fan of Julian. I thought he was a cracking player. You know, the beginning of that second season under Lennon, he get injured, then he get injured again, and he's came out with a few things in the press. Ange obviously hasn't agreed with. He's not seen much game time, and his time's obviously up. So, you know, there'll be big earners. We probably won't get a fee, but it's definitely time to move on. So, not massive business, but you can sort of tidy up the window, if you want to use a term like that, and get people off the wage bill.
Yeah, interesting one. Obviously, you've touched on left back there. Obviously, news came out yesterday. Just to kind of read the statement that came out from Police Scotland, was that a 21-year-old man was arrested in the early hours of Monday morning, August 15th, in Glasgow City Centre. It is believed that was Alexander Bernabei. Obviously, this, Lawrence, will come to you in this one. It's still much under investigation. Bernabei was released from custody yesterday. He will appear in court at a later date. I think, from a Celtic fan's perspective, anything that Ange Postecoglou decides in this, I think majority of people have faith for Ange to handle the situation the way he sees appropriately.
Yeah, the club will carry out whatever discipline they think is appropriate. Something everybody would rather wouldn't happen, especially the lad himself, I'm sure. He's settling into a new country. Probably the last thing he needs is a wee way in. But, we'll move on. I don't think it will greatly disrupt the squad. He's been brought in. I can't see him shifting Taylor with the form Taylor's in, so it's not going to be hugely disruptive to us. I don't think it's a major issue. What's been reported that he's done. We'd rather hadn't done it, but it's a mistake. You'll learn. There's other players that have done similar mistakes in the past and went on to have great careers for us.
Natasha, are you much in the kind of the same opinions I said there, that complete faith in Ange Postecoglou to manage the situation however he sees best fit? Obviously, I think the players will be back in training at Lennoxtown today, and the club will carry out whatever they see fit to handle the situation that occurred.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. As always, I'll trust Ange's judgment on this one. I don't think he'll be the type of manager who takes these things particularly well. And I think he probably has damaged his career at Celtic by doing this. So early on in the start of it, it's not good. He was always going to struggle to get a game before Taylor, when Taylor's in the form that he's in. And I think he's made that task virtually impossible for the foreseeable anyway. And this is on top of, a few things you hear about Bernabei. And of course, stress it is all rumours and things like that. But, there is the potential that he's not the best fit in the dressing room, that has, the bit of an issue there in terms of personality and attitude and commitment and things like that. And that was happening long before this incident came out over the weekend. And you can almost see it in the fact that, he hadn't been getting very much game time. There's a lot of opportunities where someone can be, brought on, even the game at the weekend. We were 4-0 up, we were cruising. A lot of players come on for, 15 minutes here and there, and still Bernabei wasn't getting a look in at that. And he hadn't been, previously either. So it was slightly concerning. There did seem to be some reason that he wasn't getting any game time at all. Obviously, Taylor playing really well, but there's potential in all of these games so far to have given Taylor a bit of a break and give Bernabei some much needed game time. So he wasn't getting that. And there's a reason for that. And then this has happened. So I think he's probably really damaged his, potential of getting game time, in the foreseeable. But as ever, we trust the club to deal with it. He's not the first player to have done this. He won't be the last, unfortunately. And we trust the club to go through the relevant processes and Ange to ultimately make the call on what happens here. But yeah, probably, like we've already discussed in the show, that the team look great, in terms of their personalities, their fit, their culture. It's just all working really well right now. We don't need any disruption to that. We don't need anyone to, take away from that. But Ange is the one who works in the backroom team, are the ones who work with them all day in, day out. They'll know the potential impact. They'll know how to minimise it and what they need to do to make sure that culture and everything within the background stays as it needs to be. And they'll make the call. So we'll see what happens on that one.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It won't go away probably, for a matter of months now, until Alexander Bernabei goes up in court and whatnot. But yeah, I'm sure we'll have an idea of where this goes in the coming weeks. But I think, while it's still ongoing, Patrick, it's just best to, that I've said a bit on it now. It was there to be discussed, and we'll move on for it, and we'll see what happens. Back to the squad. Lawrence, you touched on earlier Jeremy Frimpong. We know that Barcelona are reported to be one of the teams that are interested in him. Patrick, do you think there could be any kind of leeway given it? I read today, and I feel really sorry for Mr. Dembele. on this, that Manchester United are possibly pursuing him. Leon, this comes from somebody, as you know, that likes Man United, but I wouldn't be going there if, probably I was offered anything in the world if I was a football player at this point in time. But for Moussa Dembele, from what I've read from a French press yesterday, that Leon, his contract runs out next year, and they're basically either wanting players to commit their future to the club, or they're going this year, and they will shift him out. He finished their top goal scorer last year. Obviously, Lacazette's went back there from Arsenal, so there's probably questions whether how much game time Dembele will get. But do you think that possibly if we see Dembele and Frimpong go for big money, we know that from both deals there is what was described in the press yesterday as a cast iron sell-on fee. Celtic would benefit from both deals. Do you think that could possibly put an extra few shekels in Ange Postecoglou's transfer budget?
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think it should be something that we're banking on, because I think the English window shuts only an hour before ours does. So these deals can go through last minute, and we shouldn't be banking on this sort of stuff. But it could definitely give us an extra, a few million quid. I'm not sure how strong it is in comparison to the two that you mentioned, but I know Tierney has been linked with Man City, and then I don't know if we've even got a sell-on fee with him. But if three players,
there is.
Is there? Right.
Yes.
If these three players go, and they'll go for significant money. If we're going to Man City, Man United, and Real Madrid, Celtic could get 5, 10, 15 million. You just don't know. And I think from Pong to Real Madrid, I've not been watching a lot of Bayer Leverkusen. That seems a bit of a stretch, but I think Moussa at Man United and Tierney at Man City, they would slot in perfectly in the first 11. So definitely realistic signings. I think Moussa will want to make a move at some point. So if he signs a contract, I'm not sure he can do that. So he'll probably want to move somewhere. I know West Ham were linked as well. So I can see he's getting a couple of million from at least one or two of these guys leaving. I need to leave early for work, so I'll see you all next Tuesday.
That was well done, by the way. That was very well done. No, thanks for joining us again.
Is there a sell-on fee?
Is there a sell-on fee? Yeah. Right, Patrick, we'll catch you later on. Lawrence, we'll come to you on that. There, do you think there is possibly potential that if we do see some former Celts moving on with the sell-on fee included in their contracts, there might just be a wee bit extra leeway for Ange Postecoglou towards the end of this window? Or do you think we'll still be pursuing the type of deals that you had mentioned earlier, with that kind of loan with the option to buy, which of course has benefited Celtic well so far under Ange?
For us, it's it's not just the initial outlay; it's the wages you're committing to longer term as well. But any money, extra money coming in, you've got to decide how to spend it or where to invest it. Moussa to Man U, I bet you Man U would love him. Would he like?
I would love him.
I'm not too sure. I think
don't think so.
As Champions League player, would it really develop his career? He's got a year left, Leon. i.e. 6 months' time, he can sign for free and get a bumper contract somewhere. It would need to be a huge offer for Man United to take him. I don't know if it'd be a particularly good career move for him. I don't want to get him tearing up the English Premiership. I've no doubt it'd be a success, but is Man United the team to do that with? I think he'd be moving there with an eye to move on again within a couple of years if he did go to Man U. I could see Tierney to City and Frimpong to Barcelona. I could definitely see that, bringing in some cash. And that's our business model, isn't it? That's why you put in the sell-on fees. We expect to get something year on year. If we're selling players regularly with sell-on fees, we expect to get something back. Where would we invest it? I think only Patrick, another attacking midfielder, and another striker. But we've got to move Ayeti and Julian out. I think that's got to be also a focus, because I don't think they're lending anything to the squad, and it's probably takes a wee bit away from the atmosphere. Not so much Ayeti, you've not really heard him making noises. I think Julian's made a few, which I don't think lends anything to it or helps his reputation with Celtic fans. So I think it's better if we kind of move those two out and then look to replace. But other players that we might look to move, Scott Robertson, Ollie Shaw, I'm not too sure where they're going to fit in. So there's a few other players that we could move on, because I think Robertson's had a couple of decent loan spells, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen for him at Celtic. In which case, it's maybe time to move him on.
Yeah, absolutely, for their careers to develop also, not just from Celtic, from a wage perspective. Just on those, Natasha, it'd be good if that did happen. I think one of the things that I picked up from some of the comments that Ange said, this is probably not a exact position that we're maybe looking at. I think he's spoken about a flexibility in position and looking at somebody that can probably play more than one position in the team, just to add that wee bit of extra depth to the squad, which probably goes back to that deal with had Bernabei, the boy from Ruben Kazan, that we knew could play in either wing or as a attacking midfielder. I think that's going to be the type of player that we go for. That it's not just he plays left wing and that's it. I think you'll probably be looking at somebody who's a bit more flexible than that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the sort of player that Ange likes. He likes fluidity in the squad, and we see that with the players that he has and the players that he's brought in. You just have to look at players like Maida and Jota, Kyogo, Abada. They do all have that sort of ability to play across those attacking positions, which is great in terms of how we line up and what we can do, and great for being able to be flexible throughout the game in terms of, switching people across those front positions and keep the opposition guessing. Obviously, we all have our own opinion about, who's better on the left and the right, but being able to have that to be mixed up is a good thing. So I think if we are bringing someone in, then yeah, it would be great if he fitted the system in terms of the fact that he could do that as well. I think what we're seeing with Postecoglou now is that he's relatively happy with the squad, as we all are, really. The squad is good. They're in a really strong position. We addressed the key areas we wanted to address. And it's looking good. We're pretty solid. If we had to go for the rest of the season with only the players that we've got in our squad right now, I think we're in a pretty great position. But Ange doesn't stop. He continues looking. There's still time in the transfer window to go. So if there is anybody who comes onto our radar that can improve what we've got, who's can add to the setup we have, then great. If he wants a couple more, he probably does. But if we have to go with what we've got, probably okay as well. So I think it's more a case of, not particularly targeting, specific areas, like you said, Dick. It's more of a case of looking at what's out there and, what's a good deal for us and thinking, are they the quality who I can bring into this squad and add to who I've already got? And if we can find them, then that's great. And if they can be fluid across a few positions, even better, because that's simply good value for money. So we'll see. I'm relatively happy with where the squad are at, but always welcome a few new additions at the right level.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see. I think, as we've spoken about before, we're fighting in four fronts this season. That includes European football. Ange Postecoglou will be looking for us to progress and not be the whipping boys in there that we've been before in the Champions League. It'll look to try and get past European football, I'm sure, past Christmas, and be looking to try and be competitive. If it's, be great if it was the last 16 of the Champions League, but that might be asking too much at this point in time, especially being in pot 4. But you never know. I'd be more than happy that as long as we're at that Europa League and we can try and get that dead weight that we've got of the not winning a tie over 2 legs since 2004. I think that's probably something that is certainly achievable for Celtic and something that we should be trying to get off our back. Just before we wrap up, 2 happy birthdays today. Josip Juranović, happy birthday to him. Hopefully we'll be celebrating many more of Jura's birthdays as a Celtic player. And also a happy birthday to our good friend John Fallon, 82 years of age today. Lawrence, I know you know Big John very well, like
what
myself.
A guy,
hopefully many more years
of
that to come, 82 today.
What a man, he's just brilliant, Big John, and his stories, it's a living legend, isn't he? He's seen all at the club. He's just an amazing big guy. But to go back to Europe, this is going to be personally exciting for Ange. This is where he sees his career leading. Can Ange Ball cut it in the Champions League? And I think we all want to see it happen. I think some people will be a bit nervous. You're going, we can't leave the gap, so we might get hammered. But you know what?
That's you leaving us in EastEnders function there by that question, by the way.
Mate, I think we should have confidence in it, the way the team are playing. I think we've got to believe in our football. Ange says it. We go out there, we know our football, and we play our football. And last 16, I can see it happening.
Yeah, listen, why not? If I could play that EastEnders tune at the end of the show, I probably would do that. But yeah, listen, the draw is less than 10 days now. Next Thursday, obviously, we're in the draw. We can sit back, look forward to who we're getting, and we know where we are in the draw, and it'll be interesting to see who we get on. If we add a few more additions after that, that'd be quite nice. You never know what might get us moving if we end up with some of the real big hitters. But listen, there's teams in there who's going to give us a real good challenge. There'll be some in there who we might be looking at and thinking no chance, but hey ho, Ange Postecoglou's full of surprises. To close, thanks as always to all our usual contributors in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. If you've been watching, please do like and subscribe. I think we're at just over 19,000 subscribers on YouTube. It would be great to get to 20,000. That would be a great milestone for Acsom, so please do subscribe. Paul has been promoting the gig this Friday. The last I checked, there was 25 tickets left. It would be great if I checked here and it's Thursday.
Yeah, don't send them on the wrong day, Dick.
Don't worry. They would have been sent to Twitter for it, because if they've not bought their tickets yet, they've been checking that out just to check out. There was 25 tickets left remaining earlier. Yep, 25 tickets left. The details are on Paul Jones' Twitter page there. Las Vegas, obviously, the headliners this Thursday. That is Thursday. Sorry for that. The old diary's not what in the head's not what it used to be. Priced at £15 through in Leaf. So please do check that out. There is limited tickets remaining. Hey ho, they might already be going, but please do check that out. Las Vegas, obviously, big Celtic supporters like yourselves. So as always, thanks to everyone for joining us, and thank you for